Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm just going to give it a moment for everyone to join, and then we will get started. Okay, great. Welcome, everyone. I'm so happy to see so many of you joining us today for this session. My name is Renee Forsyth. I'm the Director of Professional Development for Lyme Connect. And before I turn this session over to Kennedy, I just wanted to take care of a few little housekeeping things. First of all, I'd like to let you know that this session is being recorded. We will be sharing it on our in our portal in just a few days once it's ready to be uploaded. So you can revisit all of this information there. I'd also like to mention that we are offering live captions. So if you don't see them, you may need to turn them on. You can access that in your toolbar. And before we officially kick off, I'd like to start this session with a land acknowledgement. And I would like to acknowledge that our session today is coming in part from Toronto, which is in the Dish with One Spoon territory. The Dish with One Spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississauga, and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. And with that, again, I'd like to welcome everyone to how to make your LinkedIn profile stand out. And I'm pleased to have Kennedy Vickerstaff here with us. She is a recruiter at our partner in Microsoft, and she's going to take you through all this information. I did forget to mention we do have the chat feature and the Q&A feature available. So feel free to put your questions in there. I will be managing that, and I'll feed them to Kennedy as appropriate. So Kennedy, welcome, and I turn it all over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Renee. Just wanted to make sure that you're able to hear me.
We are able to hear you. We're not able to see you. I'm not sure if your video is on.
There
There you are.
Here we are. Okay, awesome. So just give me 1 second here to get set up. Awesome. So hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much to Lyme for setting this event up. I've been lucky enough to be part of some in-person events in Lyme. So I'm really excited that we can leverage these virtual opportunities as well. Today, we're going to be looking at LinkedIn profiles as well as interacting with recruiters on LinkedIn. So I hope that throughout this deck, you'll be able to gain some tips, tricks that will help you with your job search, and more specifically, your job search on LinkedIn. So before we dive in, I want to just do a brief introduction. My name is Kennedy Vickerstaff, and I am a recruiter at Microsoft. So my journey at Microsoft started actually helping out the engineering team in Vancouver. And more recently, I've been working with the go-to-market team based in Toronto, focusing on technical sales roles and roles of that nature. So this presentation is focused on how to help make your LinkedIn profile stand out by making it more visible and attractive to recruiters. We're also going to be covering messaging with recruiters on LinkedIn and how you can help set yourself up for success. And then, as Renee said, we can have some Q&A period to follow. So why is LinkedIn important? You may have heard that a LinkedIn profile is the new resume, and this can be true in many cases. Luckily, you can leverage LinkedIn as a tool to help you develop your career. By increasing your visibility on LinkedIn and building a strong network of connections, you can make LinkedIn work for you. Visibility is key, as the easier you are to find, the more likely you are to have opportunities presented to you over LinkedIn. So I'm going to be breaking down some of the different components on a LinkedIn profile. We're going to be starting off with some of the basic information to include in your profile, and then we're going to be going a little bit deeper and digging into information that you can include to help your profile stand out.
Kennedy,
So,
the slides haven't advanced.
oh, really? Oh, sorry, guys. Just give me 1 second here. Okay, there we go. Awesome. Okay, so sorry, just a quick review then of the slides that we missed. Introduction. So this is why LinkedIn is important. So just why a LinkedIn profile can be called the new resume. And then, like I said, we're going to be diving into some more information now. So the basic info to include on your profile include things like your name, location, and bio. So this is really important that these are spelled correctly, as well as match what you have on your resume. For the bio, recruiters can actually sync or search for keywords on LinkedIn. So make sure to incorporate key terms that align with your professional interests in your bio. This will increase your visibility and will let recruiters know right away what you do and what types of work you would be interested in. I have an example of how I've done this on my own profile that I will share a little bit later on. The next is profile picture. So it is important to have a professional solo photo. You don't necessarily need to have a professional photo taken, but there are a couple of things that you should avoid. One being sunglasses, funny faces, unprofessional clothing, and hand gestures is one that I do see sometimes. When it comes to listing your current and previous work, make sure that the dates are accurate. This is the #1 red flag when I'm looking at candidates online, if the dates on their LinkedIn profile don't match the dates on their resume. So make sure to really pay attention to that aspect of it. When it comes to education, training, and certificates, this is also something that's very searchable by recruiters on LinkedIn. So it's important to keep this section updated frequently, especially if you're in a profession like technology, where new certificates are being worked on every year. For example, if I'm looking for candidates who have their Microsoft Dynamics certificate, I'll be able to search on LinkedIn and easily be able to find those candidates who have those certificates listed in their profile. The next thing that applies to is also skills. Recruiters can actually search by skills to try and find good candidates on LinkedIn. So if you have a new tool that you've learned or you've started developing a new skill, definitely include that on your profile and make sure it's updated and relevant. And then the last core piece on a LinkedIn profile is recommendations. So try to find about 3 to 4 people from the last 5 years who will give you a positive recommendation. This is the section that tells recruiters how you work, not just what you do. So it's really an opportunity to highlight your values and how you apply them to your job. Are you someone who normally goes above and beyond? Did you take leadership on a project that produced really good results? These are all things that can be demonstrated by recommendations on LinkedIn. And so now I wanted to dive into some of the added information that you can add to really help your profile stand out. So the first is the featured post. And this is a post that would be pinned to the top of your profile. And so this is a really good area to highlight any awards, maybe a project that you've been really proud of, anything like that you would want all of your future potential employers to see. You're able to showcase that accomplishment right at the top of your profile. The next is thought leadership articles. So I know I've been talking about how to be more visible on LinkedIn, but by increasing the quality of your connections, you can increase the number of opportunities visible to you. A great way to increase the quality of your connections is by contributing to the LinkedIn community and contributing to thought leadership articles that align with your professional interests. As an example, as a recruiter, I might create content about topics like salary disclosure. And by producing content that's aligned with your professional interests, you'll have more engagement and better quality connections. The next is the open to work banner. So this is the banner that's green and it says open to work. Something that a lot of people don't know is that recruiters can actually search by this status. So by marking yourself as open to work on LinkedIn, you're letting recruiters know that you're open to hearing about other opportunities. I also think it is important to highlight that LinkedIn will do their best to try and make sure that anyone from your current company won't see this banner. It's not a guarantee, but it is something that they say. And then the last area that you can really focus on to help stand out is by joining professional groups on LinkedIn. There's a whole array of groups that you can join for all different types of topics. And recruiters will look in these groups to try and find talent that they might not necessarily find just from searches on LinkedIn. So it is important, if you do see something that you are really interested in, join it. So I did want to walk through my own profile and just show you guys some examples of what I've been talking about in different components to the LinkedIn profile. So a few of the things that I wanted to highlight was first, my featured post. So I actually had the honor of receiving the Top Recruiter Award for corporate recruitment in Vancouver back in 2020. And so this is something that I'm really proud of. So I have this as my featured post, which means any person that comes to my LinkedIn profile, this is the first thing that they're going to see. I also wanted to point out in my bio, I use the words talent acquisition specialist as well as recruitment, because these are key terms that align with my professional career. And so if there's recruiters searching, I would come up in both that talent acquisition specialist search as well as the recruitment search. So I'm really trying to cover all of my areas. I also, the last thing that I wanted to highlight here was how I had how I've written my Microsoft experience. So as you can see, I clearly have the dates on my profile, including the dates of when I transitioned from the engineering team over to the go-to-market team. So it really does tell a story. And if I was going to be interviewed or anything like that, the dates would match up, which would then help me build my credibility. So the next slide that I wanted to highlight is just the end of my LinkedIn profile. So as you can see, I have skills that are relevant to my experience, and also the recommendations. So the recommendations that I've been able to get have been from different types of team members. So there's people who are senior to me, there are candidates I've helped in the past, and by getting these people to provide those recommendations, I'm really just making more of a well-rounded profile that speaks to how I work, not just what I do. So one part that I think is really important is not only just how to create a LinkedIn profile and what information you should have on there, but also what to do afterwards. So I'm going to be reviewing some tips on how to message a recruiter on LinkedIn, but then also how to respond to a recruiter in different types of scenarios. So some days I receive 30+ messages on LinkedIn from potential candidates looking to find out more about Microsoft opportunities. So what that means is I have seen a lot of messages. I've seen some really great ones and then also some not so great ones. And so I put together here a couple tips just to help you set yourself up for success when reaching out to recruiters over LinkedIn. So some of my do's. Definitely include a specific job title, ID, or position that you are interested in. And also let the recruiter know if you've already applied to that position through their website. This is really helpful for me because I'll be able to pull up your profile in our internal systems really quickly, as well as I'll be able to get back to you with more specifics about that one job or position. The next is spell the recruiter's name correctly. I know this may seem like common sense, but this is a small detail that does get missed a lot of the time. So please refrain from using any assumed nicknames and try to always spell the names of the people you're reaching out to correctly. The next is include a brief summary of who you are and what you do. The key word here being brief. I don't need a full 5-year history of everything that you've done. This is really just an introduction to you. So a few sentences talking about what you're focused on now, as well as what you're looking for is really helpful. And then lastly, always include a phone number or an email address when you're doing these reach outs so that the recruiter will be able to contact you as soon as possible. A lot of the time, speed is something that recruiters are kind of working against. So having that contact information readily available will help you and the recruiter get more information that you need. I also wanted to go through a couple don'ts. So the first is don't send vague messages asking the recruiter if they have opportunities for you. I get so many messages on LinkedIn that say, hey, do you have any software engineering roles, for example? When I have that type of message compared to another message that from a candidate that's provided the job title, the ID, they've already applied, it's much easier for me to start responding back to that first candidate rather than more of those vague messages. The next is don't send messages using inappropriate language. This includes winking emojis and comments on physical appearance. LinkedIn is a professional network site. It's not a dating site. And so just please keep in mind the impression that you're making will be a first one. So we want to make sure that it's professional. And then lastly, this is something that I see all the time, and it's sending multiple short messages in a row. So for example, hey, how are you? Is this job still open? What you should be doing is making your original reach out the same way as you would make an email, for example. Have all the information in one message so we'll easily be able to continue on the conversation. And so hopefully, by developing your LinkedIn profile, you'll start to receive more messages from recruiters asking you if you're interested in their roles. Here's some tips on what to do when you're interested in their position, but also for when they reach out with a position and it might not be exactly what you're looking for. When you are interested, let them know right away and accept the LinkedIn message. This is really important to be able to continue on that conversation over LinkedIn. You have to accept that message. As well in your response, include some times that you're available for a call within the next 24 hours. The recruiter will most likely have some questions for you. And also this will be your opportunity to ask more questions about the role to see if it might be a good fit and something that you want to pursue. And then lastly, again, include a phone number and an email address so that you can be easily contacted quickly. This will only help you in getting those questions answered that you really want. And then sometimes it does happen where a recruiter will reach out to you and present you with a position or a job opportunity that you might not be very interested in. And here's my tips on what to do there. So still accept the message and tell the recruiter that you're not interested. Something that some people may not know is that if you decline a message, there's a possibility that that recruiter will never be able to message you in the future. And just because that one job or that one position might not be what you're looking for, doesn't mean that every single job that comes across their desk in the future will also be something you're not interested in. So it's important to accept those messages to keep that bridge open. Also, if you are actively looking for a new role, send the recruiter a short description of the types of roles that interest you and see if they have any positions that are aligned. A lot of the time, recruiters are working on multiple roles at the same time. So just because that one might not be a fit doesn't mean that there aren't others that you might be interested in. And lastly, I do want to finish off with something that I think is really important, and this is staying safe on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a website and it is a social media platform. So there are a few guidelines that I like to follow to make sure that I'm making smart choices with how I use the site. And so here are a few tips on how you can be safe on LinkedIn as well, because it's not immune to things like phishing. So first of all, look at the profiles of the people who you're accepting connection requests from. If you don't know them personally, take a look at their profile. Do they seem like a real person? Do they have a profile picture? Do they have their profile built out? These are all things that you should be looking for before accepting connection requests. Also, and this is a big one, you can do this in your settings, but keep your connection list private. If you don't have your connection list set to private, that means that anyone on LinkedIn will be able to see every person in your professional network. So this is something that I always like to advise my candidates to do. Also, just like any website, be cautious when clicking on any links that are sent to you. One of my best tips here is if you are speaking with a recruiter and they send you a link to a job, check their website first before clicking that link. That's just a safe practice that I've started doing. As well as remove your personal phone number from your account. So I do believe it is really important to provide recruiters with your contact information once you've had that initial engagement. But if you have your phone number on your profile, anyone with a LinkedIn profile will have that access to that information. So that's also something that I think should be taken off the public profiles. And then lastly, and this may seem like common sense, but do not post any confidential information on LinkedIn. The biggest example I have here is, let's say you are working on a project, you're so excited about it, and you do a status update on LinkedIn about the project you're working on. However, maybe the company has confidentiality agreements around that project. And so you just want to always be making sure that what you're posting is something you're able to post. So I want to say thank you again to Lime for letting me come and speak to you all today about LinkedIn profiles. This is something I'm super passionate about. So I hope that you all were able to learn something today, and I'm really excited for any questions.
Thanks, Kennedy. This was fantastic. So thank you for all this information. We do have a few coming through, and everybody can feel free to continue to post them. One is just a comment that one person said they usually get recruiters wanting to set up a meeting with them without first telling me what the recruiting is for. And then it winds up they're trying to sell them on something. So that's just a point, I think, to the safety of everything. Another person asked, can we talk about disability with the recruiter? And I'm not sure if this question is related to the initial outreach or just overall with the recruiter. So
yeah, definitely.
You want to answer that? Go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. So I want to start off by saying I know that Lime does have some really good resources about self-disclosing and different ways to do that. But when it does come to having those conversations with recruiters, my biggest piece of advice is you need to be looking for a place of employment and where you want to work in a place that makes sense for you. And if there is some accommodation or accessibility or even just a general culture around accessibility that you want to explore, have those conversations with the recruiter. They will be able to give you more in-depth knowledge about how their company supports and even be able to give you some examples of how current employees are using the different options that they have and the different support systems that they have. So my biggest thing, and this goes with disability or with anything that's really important to you in your place of work, bring that up with the recruiters because they want to know what's important to you. And so definitely have that conversation with them. But again, I know Lime does have lots of really good resources on this topic as well.
Thanks, Kennedy. Another question, do you have any recommendations on how to describe a gap in your work experience / resume?
Yes, definitely. So and I love this question because I've been recruiting now, I want 5-6 years, and I have seen tons of gaps on resumes. And I can promise you the best way that it's been managed with myself is when candidates are truthful and honest about their experience. So if you have, a 6-month gap because you took a break or you were trying to change careers or something like that, talk that through with the recruiter. I promise you, you'll be more successful being honest and truthful about why those gaps are there, rather than trying to cover it up by saying, oh, I was just consulting or something like that. We're not able to give a lot of details. Also, we are living in a time right now where gaps are normal on resumes. I mean, we have gone through COVID with a lot of layoffs. I know previous to COVID, I worked in Calgary after an oil and gas recession, and being honest is honestly the best way I feel to manage those conversations.
Great, thank you. Okay, so two more disability related questions. We have some good questions here. A person asked, do you think you should include the fact that you have a disability on LinkedIn? And another person noted that they have hashtag PWD on my LinkedIn headline. Do you ever search for that when you are looking for diversity hires?
So I guess for the first question, should I disclose on my LinkedIn profile? Again, this is personal choice, and it depends on the type of way that you are looking for jobs. Myself, I am someone who's very, very passionate about D&I. And so I want to be approached by companies, and I want to be included in those companies that accept that D&I and everything like that is a positive. And so if you do disclose on LinkedIn, I'm sure that those types of companies wouldn't see past that. But at the same time, it is a personal choice. And I know that I have spoken about the Lime resources before, but they do have lots of more information about self-disclosing.
Thank you. Yes, we do. So thank you for that, Kennedy. People can explore what we have to offer. Pros and cons of reaching out to a recruiter after or before applying to the opportunity.
So my general advice would be always apply on the website and then reach out to the recruiter. The reason why is if you apply and then you let me know that you've applied, I'll be able to pull up your profile in our internal systems, and I'll be able to easily share that with hiring managers. I will be able to have all of your information in one place. So like I said in my tips and tricks, apply and then let the recruiter know that you've applied. Honestly, that's just setting yourself up for success.
Okay. When I send a connection request and message to a recruiter, I'm limited to 300 characters, which makes it difficult to format a message like you've described. Is there a way to send longer messages, or do they have to accept my connection request first?
So are you talking about like the connection, like that little blurb that you're able to send when, okay.
I'm assuming it's not my question, but I'm assuming that's what they mean.
Okay, awesome. So when you're actually able to send emails to recruiters as well. One of my top tips for including, if you're going to send an email to a recruiter, is include that job ID or the job title in the subject line. And then you can fill the body of that with, your brief description of what you're interested in. If you are sending a connection request first rather than a message, then I would still have the job ID or the job title that you are interested in that body of the message. And then once they accept that connection request, then you can give them more of the brief introduction on yourself about what you're doing and what you're interested in. But I would say that job ID is the key piece there.
And somebody else asked if how you felt about people attaching their resume to those communications.
Yeah, go for it. Definitely. That's something that will help you out. Like I said, it's really important for these recruiters and for people like myself to have that contact information. When people do send me across their resume over LinkedIn, that's the first thing that I look for if I want to call them and talk to them more about the position. But also it's a good idea to just have that resume there. So when you do get on that phone call, you can talk about your experience as more of a together rather than you just saying the experience and you trying to follow.
Okay, they keep coming. So Kennedy, hang on with us here. Is it weird to ask a recruiter to review my resume or cover letter before I submit my application?
It's not weird. I've had that happen before, but I would preface with the way that you are asking. So if I received a message from a candidate and they said, hey, look at my resume and tell me what I should change on it. That's a very different conversation than if a candidate was reaching out to me saying, hello, I'm really interested in this specific job. I want to highlight my key skills and this is my past experience. Would you mind taking a quick look at my resume and letting me know if there are any areas in which I should focus more on. So rather than asking me to rewrite your resume or something like that, definitely feel free to ask for more focus areas rather than like doing the whole resume.
Okay. I have been exploring with AI. I am just wondering AI options to optimize LinkedIn profile.
So I'm actually not familiar with the AI options on LinkedIn. And I should have prefaced this call with saying that LinkedIn is part of Microsoft, but they are two separate companies. So I don't have all the ins and outs of all the features coming up with LinkedIn, but I'm sure that they're probably working on some features, definitely.
Okay. Is it important to choose recommenders who are in my specific present fields of interest, and would college professors be okay to include?
Yeah, definitely. So like I said, anyone who's relevant to what you're passionate about and what you're looking for from the last 5 years. So if you are, just starting off in your job search and you've been in school for that time period, a college professor would be a great recommendation. You really want to get people who are relevant. And so that's why it is, I say within the last 5 years. So yeah, I think a college professor would be great if that is in line with that time period.
Okay, I think we're getting down to the end. Oh, no, they keep popping in. Okay. I'm interested in a few roles: project manager, executive assistant, content moderator, etc., that I would be interested in and have transferable skills for. Do you have advice for those of us who are interested in various roles and how to target our LinkedIn for all of these options?
Yeah, definitely. So recruiters can actually search by keywords. So if you have an opportunity maybe in your bio to mention some of those different areas, then that will make sure that your profile will come up in different searches. Again, as well, really developing that skills section of your profile and that education section of your profile will help the visibility of your entire profile across the board.
Okay. And two general questions, but let's do this last one on LinkedIn. Does having the open to work signal sometimes make people judgmental? Like, oh, if they had value, they'd already be employed happily.
So I personally have never thought this. I also have never heard another recruiter say that they would judge someone for that banner. To be honest, I love when people have that banner on because, like I said, it's a searchable status. So if I am looking to fill a role quickly, or if I'm looking to, start speaking to candidates right away, if I search by that open to work status, I will have a better shot of knowing, okay, these people might be more interested. So that's something that I like, and I honestly haven't heard other recruiters ever speak negatively about it. But again, this is a personal choice. I know there is lots of different information out there, but it is something that I can say for me personally is positive.
Okay. And a couple of general sort of recruiting questions. If you applied for a role and haven't heard back from the recruiter, and you meanwhile got a new certification, is it worthwhile to resubmit and update your resume?
So I would say it depends on the time. If you have applied for a position and you haven't heard back in, maybe 3 months, or 2 to 3 months, then yeah, definitely it might be worth resubmitting if you have new qualifications that meet that specific role and what they're looking for. But I would refrain from, applying to a position, and if all you're looking for is have you received the resume, have you done this, don't be sending those messages like the day after you apply. I definitely give the recruiters a little bit of breathing room.
Okay. Do you have any general advice for writing cover letters?
So cover letters are interesting. I think it's really for me, at least, I believe that it's a really good way to show your passion for a role. So a cover letter is kind of an introduction to you and what you're looking for as well. So if I can tell that someone really understands what the job description says, if they have some anecdote about what working for the company means to them, something like that is what makes cover letters stand out to me.
So you do read them. I think that we always get that question. Do recruiters read these cover letters?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, cover letters are a really good way to showcase your certain skills as well, like writing skills, for example. It's a good opportunity if you are applying for that type of position to really showcase those skills too.
Okay. One person said that they use the accommodation needs in their about section. Do you see that often? And this person says, I know it won't turn you off, but do you think it generally that is a good practice?
So that is something that I do see in LinkedIn profiles. Not every LinkedIn profile, but I have seen that coming up, especially within the last couple of years. I've been seeing that more. And to be honest, I think I can't answer the general question, will this turn anyone off? But what I can say is that those recruiters and those companies and those people who really do make that effort and for things like D&I and for those accommodation requests and for accessibility, if that's the type of company you're looking for, go for it. But again, I can't speak for every recruiter out there.
Yeah, and I'll just chime in here on the sort of our general career coaching practices. And I've never really thought about this in the about section of LinkedIn, but I do think, when we talk about disclosure, it's really, talking about it for what is the purpose? What is the whether, when, and how to disclose? And as Kennedy has pointed out, we do have materials on this and we do webinars on this. So really thinking about in the how, like what is the purpose of disclosing that in the forefront? And are you talking about it from, we always talk about talking about your disability from a strengths-based perspective. So if the about section is really putting your best summary forward and what you want people to know that you're bringing to an organization, is that really the best place to put it? Or do you really want to talk about all your strengths and skills and have that be at the forefront? And maybe disability is a big part of your identity and that it is important to highlight that there. But is the actual discussion around what your needs are in terms of accommodations better to have sort of as a one-on-one dialogue? Something to think about. I mean, we also say it's a very personal choice, so that's really up to you. But that's just one thing I would mention. Awesome. Okay, and I will wrap this up shortly. As far as getting the slides for this presentation, this is being recorded, so we're not sending out the slides, but you will be able to access the recording. And one person said, please talk about ATS. There are so many misconceptions being propagated. Elizabeth, maybe you can clarify what exactly you're looking for there. And when you say the open to work status on, is it important to have the banner on as well, or just the status?
So the status is the key piece there, but you can definitely have the banner on. They do go hand in hand. Again, personal choice, but yeah, I see it as a positive.
Okay. And then so the last question I'm going to ask, there's some questions that are very specific here. So if I haven't gotten to them, I'm sorry. And I will say that we do have a Lyme Connect coach on staff. So if there's something very personal that you want to talk through, I definitely encourage you to make an appointment with our coach, Helen, and you can talk through some of those questions because some of this is a little too specific to get into, and it may not be Kennedy's expertise necessarily. But there was a question, one last question that I was going to ask. Oh, well, the last thing was about recommendations. Someone was saying they feel like they could be very, too general to have meaning. So if you could just expand on that a little bit further.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's really important to consider who you're asking for a recommendation and even having that conversation with that person about what you're looking to get out of. For example, there's a difference between asking, hey, will you write me a recommendation on LinkedIn versus, hey, I really enjoyed working with you on this project and I'm really proud of the results that we had. Would you mind writing a recommendation on LinkedIn that speaks to my contributions to that project? So I think it's the way that you ask for those recommendations as well will help set you up for success.
Okay, great. And I think that we covered most of the general questions, and I think this was really great advice and insights. And Kennedy, we thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all of your expertise. And I appreciate it. Any last thoughts before we go?
No, thank you again for having me. And I just want to put it out there to anyone who's been watching, feel free to send me a LinkedIn connection request. Let me know you're from this event and I will definitely add you into my network and we can connect later on if you have any other questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you. This was great. Thank you everyone for joining, and keep an eye out for the recording, which will be up in just a few days. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks.